Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are still fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. And Shalom to all the sincere believers. Now this is going to be a quick lesson, just primarily based on Job 14:5. In regards to the fact that Esau is basically on a short leash right now, and that leash is getting shorter and shorter. His time of rulership is coming to an end, and there's nothing that he can do to slow it down or stop it or extend it. And as a result of that, he's going to become a lot more ruthless and a lot more aggressive in his pursuit to fulfill his wicked plans. So through the Spirit, I'm going to hit these precepts, and Lord's will, you're edified. So Job 14:5. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. And that's basically what has happened. The Lord has let Esau loose for a little season. It's been around 500 plus years. And look at the damage that Esau has done to the world in that short period of time. All the wars that Esau has started, all the colonizing, all the raping, all the murder, all the oppression and suffering that he has caused. And now we're coming to the end of that. And that's why everything is falling apart for this devil. Esau is exposed. You have the Epstein files. Every time you turn around, both these Edomite men and the Edomite woman are being exposed for messing with children. Like these Edomite women, a lot of them are, teachers, and they're constantly getting exposed for messing around with their students in a sexual manner. These Edomite men, the judges, lawyers, doctors, people in pretty significant positions, they're getting exposed for having terabytes of child porn on their computers. A lot of police officers are getting exposed for kidnapping and doing things to women and little girls. And then also Esau's lies. Every time Esau does something and then tries to say that he's doing it to help or benefit people, it gets exposed very quickly that that's not the case. Just like with Venezuela, how the U.S. kidnapped the Venezuelan president, Maduro. And nobody has really seen or heard from him since that happened. And, Esau, aka Trump over here in the States, he tries to act like he did that to liberate and save the people of Venezuela. That we know that's not true. Esau never has brown-skinned people's best interest at heart. To be perfectly honest, Esau doesn't even have his own people's best interest at heart. And brown-skinned people, particularly the Israelites, whether they be of the southern kingdom or the northern kingdom. We are Esau's enemy, and he understands that, and he treats us as such. And now he's trying to pull the same thing with Cuba. Like, those people are starving out there. They don't really have oil. Their electrical grid is constantly going down. So it's complete chaos out there. Trump is talking about he wants to take over Cuba. He wants to pull the same thing at some point with Mexico. He's talking about taking over Greenland. He's even thrown around the threat of taking over Canada. This is who Esau is. He's a devil. And even when he tries to paint it as he's trying to help the people, and if he conquers their land, takes over their country, it'll be better for them. Everybody knows that's not the case. And the primary example of that is America. When these devils, took America from the natives, it has not been better for the people. Those Native Americans, they're still on those reservations. They're still suffering. And so is everybody else that resides in this country. Except for the wealthiest people. Everybody else, they're going through it in one way or another. So Esau really was not fit to rule. He was never fit to be in charge. But see, the Lord put him in charge. The Lord set up the basest of man, the lowest of the low, the most scumbag, vile, wicked, unholy nation, which is the nation of Edom, to rule over the world. And now the world has seen what true oppression and true wickedness looks like. And that is why everybody is turning against Esau. These Edomites will sit here and they'll cry and they'll be like, why is everybody against us? Why does everybody hate white people? And it's like, because look at what y'all have done. Look at all the chaos and the violence and the deaths and the destruction and the misery that you people have caused all over the world. As I've said, and I will continue to say, so-called white people will never be on the right side of history. And for the most part, they've already served their purpose. They've done, for the most part, what the Lord required of them, and that's why the Lord is starting to remove them out of power. Everything these devils do is falling apart. And they're noticing that, and that's why they're crying and complaining so much. Because they realize that power is being stripped away from them. And they're about to be on the bottom, where they rightfully belong. And there's nothing they can do to stop it. Revelation 12:12. Therefore, rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And that's right. And this devil is not referring to the spiritual demon Satan. It's referring to Satan's human counterpart, which is Esau, the so-called self-proclaimed white man. Esau has but a short time. So, like I said, he's going to start acting up a whole lot more. Like Elder Malcolm likes to say, these Edomites are getting very sloppy with their plans. they're not really thinking things through. They're just doing things, and it's blowing up in their face when they do it. There's no planning. There is no logic that goes behind the things that these devils are doing. See, they don't have time to do that anymore. They don't have time to really sit there and plan things out. They just got to start making moves because they don't have time like that anymore. So whatever Esau's plans are, he has to speed them up. He has to accelerate them. And when you're moving too fast trying to do something, things are going to start going wrong. And see, that's how those of us of the hopeful elect know that we're in the last days, especially in regards to how much time Esau has. Because this devil, he's moving too quick now. And every move he makes, it just falls apart. Like every time these Edomites, especially of Trump's administration, like J.D. Vance or Pete Hegseth or Caroline Levitt, every time they get on TV and start running their mouth, people automatically are like, yeah, you're lying. Because the world is seeing a different picture than what they're telling, especially in regards to this war, this Iran war that's going on because of Israel and the U.S. Trump's administration is telling the people one thing. Meanwhile, the people are seeing something completely different. And back in the day, a couple of decades ago, it would have been a lot easier for Esau to pull the wool over people's eyes. But a lot of people have woken up. And especially due to social media, like Elder Malcolm has said, people are able to share information with each other a lot quicker than these Edomites can, lie about it and cover it up. So Esau will get on TV and he'll tell the people one thing, but then when the truth starts circling around the social media and the internet, it's a short period of time between when Esau lied to the people. And that right there causes a lot of division, because you have some people that want to believe everything that Esau tells them. They're stuck in that. They're stuck in that loop. They're still drinking the Kool-Aid. They still believe in the lies. And then you have the other side where people are waking up to the fact that everything that comes out of Esau's mouth is a lie. And they don't believe it anymore. You have the lie that America, has the greatest military and America's just, the best. But in reality, America is not the best. Right now, the U.S. and Israel are getting their ass handed to them out there in the quote-unquote Middle East in this war with Iran. Things are definitely not going the way that they anticipated that it would go. Iran is putting up a hell of a fight, something that the U.S. and Israel did not think through. They were not expecting as much resistance as they've gotten. But yet they'll get on, Trump will get on TV, and his little minions will also get on TV, and they'll sit there and they'll say, oh yeah, we're winning this war, everything is going great. And it's clearly not, because not too long ago, Trump did ask these other nations to help open the Strait of Hormuz. He asked them to get involved in this war. And they all told him no. Because they're like, first of all, this is an illegal war that you started alongside Israel. And we're not getting involved in that. Because if we get involved, then we become targets. Like, this is not our fight. Like, you made this mess. You have to clean it up. And Trump is trying to sit here and spin it and make it seem like, him and Netanyahu, the US and Israel are on the right side of this. And they're like, oh, well, we had to do it because if we didn't do it, then Iran was going to get nuclear missiles and then they were going to attack us first. And it's like, y'all have been saying that for almost 50 years. For almost half a century, y'all have been saying that Iran was going to get their hands on nukes. And they haven't in almost 50 years. So it's like that is played out. At the end of the day, what it really is that Israel, which is controlled by Edomites, Amalek to be specific, the head of the Edomites, wants to take over the entire quote-unquote Middle East. But they can't really do that because there's a bunch of brown-skinned nations that are surrounding them. So what they're trying to do is wipe out all the brown people and take over the land that way. But they can't do it by themselves. They're not strong enough. So then they call in America to help them. And the whole world is starting to figure that out. And that's why so many people are, calling out the US and Israel. And, Israel is, quote unquote, trying to defend themselves, talking about, oh, if you're against us, then you're an anti this and that. And it's like nobody cares about that BS anymore. Okay, at the end of the day, the two biggest problems on earth are Israel and the US. And everybody, even America's own allies, are turning against them. The US and Israel are basically on their own. And that's a horrible position to be in. And it's only going to get worse. And there's nothing these devils can do to rewind time and go back to go back to the time when it was easier for them to manipulate and lie to the people. The Lord has Esau on this downward trajectory, just taking him straight to his own destruction. And he does understand that. But he thinks that he can get out of it somehow. It's that pride and that arrogance of the so-called white man. But the Lord is going to show him who's really running things around here, who's really pulling the strings and calling the shots. Esau has no power. The Lord is the one with all the power. And in these last days, the Lord is going to remind Esau of where he really belongs in this story. So expect Esau to lash out against the people more and more because he's desperate. But his desperation, it's only going to further his descent into destruction. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakudash, the Wadi Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all our brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. And shalom to all the sincere believers, which includes the scattered Israelites of the hopeful elect who are amongst these other nations and look like these other nations. I hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, Adawad, Ratazah. Till next time, Shalom.